mathematician, Jonathan, so I was hoping that it would make some more sense to you. But
I know, Jonathan, why don't you have the answers?
I must have skipped the math lesson where we were doing it.
How do I get more life?
Hello everyone, and welcome to the 8th episode of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm your host today, Michael, with my two co-hosts. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Stephen.
I'm Jonathan.
Yeah, and today we will be doing The Final Empire, which is Mistborn Book 1 by Brandon Sanderson, read by Michael Kramer. Before I launch onto what the plot was about, I guess we'll go over your guys' guesses from last time. Do you guys remember what they were?
No. I remember somebody said something about a dagger on the cover, but I can't remember.
Do you remember yours, Jonathan?
No,
I have listened to them, but I just wanted to see if you guys remembered.
I remember thinking that, I remember you said that me and Stephen were quite close with our guesses, and I was, after listening to the audiobook, I was like, that was quite close what we guessed. But
who was closer though, mate?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like.
Yeah, that is
How
the name of the game.
Is RoboCop to this book?
Okay, so I listened back to both answers there, and as I said during the episode, you were both extremely close. But Stephen, I think, wins it this time.
Yes.
And I'll say why. It's because Stephen used the word dystopia. He also mentioned that the land would be ruled by a tyrant. He said there was something else. He talked about how the setting would be barren. So I think that was all really, really accurate. And I think it's a well-deserved point here for Stephen to finally get himself on the board.
Finally on the board. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. So as I've alluded to in explaining how accurate the guys were, Mistborn is kind of a dystopian book. It's a fantasy book. It's also kind of a heist book as well. It follows some heist tropes and plots. So for thousands of years, the Ska, these peasants, slaves, have lived under the tyranny and the rule of the Lord Ruler, he's this godlike being who oversees this land, and the land itself it's full of ash, and it's quite sparse on the outside. Nobody really goes out at night. There's ash mounds and there's mist surrounding the lands. The nobility they're not in charge because the Lord Ruler is in charge, but they have free reign to treat their servants, the Ska, how they want. And the Mistborn books, it follows it begins with a thieving crew, and it's about their struggle to basically resist this power. Yeah, so the reason that I picked this book is because we haven't done like an epic fantasy yet, and if you have listened to our prologue episode, we all said that we were big fantasy readers, so it seemed like we were due to do one. And the reason that I picked this out of all the lexicon of fantasy books is because there's something that I remember Brandon Sanderson once said about Robin Hobb. He said that he was reading a lot of fantasy when he was younger, and then he became a bit disillusioned with fantasy because it follows the same kind of tropes and the same Tolkien kind of model. So he didn't feel like there was anything new to be offered by fantasy until he read Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogy, and then he said it gave him this feeling that these are coming of age books but there are also fantasy books. So fantasy can be about anything. And that's exactly how I felt when I picked up this book. I didn't realize that, you know, it didn't always have to be orcs and dwarves and elves. You can have your own races and your own worlds, and you can play with history and mythology, and the races and the magic can be so creative. And it gave me this feeling that, wow, fantasy can be anything. This was the book that reinvigorated the genre for me. So that's the reason that I wanted to do this book as our first fantasy book. It's maybe not Brandon Sanderson's magnum opus, which is probably considered to be the Stormlight Archive books, but those books are extremely massive. I think Mistborn is like a good entry point because it's a bit smaller, but it's still got the epicness, and it's still got all these things that Brandon Sanderson's known for, like the magic systems, the complex magic systems, the really explosive big grand endings, and the unique world building. Okay, so before we launch onto the plot and go and digging deeper into the plot, I just want to get thoughts from you guys. Jonathan, we'll start with you. How did you find this book?
Yeah, I mean, just to put it in one sentence, like, I absolutely love this book. Like, I just thought the ideas were so fresh. Like, it's a lot of the fantasy that's, you know, you do read do have like very similar themes, or like especially like you were mentioning there, like orcs and things like that. Like, you know, you have overlap between like those kind of characters in, like, say, World of Warcraft or Lord of the Rings. So they kind of reuse the same ideas, but I thought especially the magical powers they had in this, the elemancy, I thought was just such a good idea. Like, and like it was just so like well fleshed out. Like, you know, anytime they enter just like a new power, I was just like, oh well, you could exploit this doing this, and then, you know, the next couple of sentences would be, oh, but you know, these are the drawbacks of using this power and stuff. I just thought it was so well developed, and so interesting, so different than anything anyone else has done. And then they actually put this on top of this heist storyline. It was just kind of two like main themes mushed together, which I thought just made this book absolutely brilliant for me.
Yeah, just it's funny, that thing that you mentioned about the weaknesses of the abilities, because that's something that Brandon Sanderson always says too. He always says that the weakness of the powers is probably more interesting than what it can do, like the limitations. I always think about like Spider-Man versus Superman. I find, even though they're both like going about up in the air, I always find Spider-Man so much more interesting because he has to have buildings and stuff to travel around, and I find that limitation compared to just simple flight, it's so much more interesting and dynamic. Stephen, what did you think about this book?
I've been dreading this question for weeks now, because I knew what you guys were going to say. I absolutely hated it.
You hated it?
In a word, I could not stand this book, to be honest. Like, yes, the magic system is different and interesting, but the story, the actual story is very bland and dull, and nothing really happens. And things that do happen, we don't see them. You get told about them from like a group meeting or a conversation or something, and it really bugged me. Without doing too many spoilers, what else? The characters too. They just, some of the main characters were very, like, I don't know, forced. Like the I don't want to do spoilers. I'll get into that in a bit more, but I'll summarize it with this. By the end, I had to listen to the book on 2.5 times speed just to get through it. Right. And I've never ever done that with any other book before.
Yeah. Well, I'm extremely surprised that it was that strong of a reaction, but yeah, we'll get into it more.
Well, so was I. I mean, like, you know, you've told me a lot about these books, and I thought, it's going to be amazing. This is going to be right up my street, and it just wasn't. But again, I think I've said this on almost every single episode, right? Or every time I've rated a book badly, the narrator really killed it for me too.
I knew that you wouldn't like the narrator, Stephen, because I once gave you a book, I think, that was narrated by Michael Kramer, and you immediately told me that you didn't like the narrator. So I already
I think that was a Brandon Sanderson book as well.
I think that was Stormlight Archive, which is also read by Michael Kramer, and yeah, you told me that you did not like the narrator.
Way of Kings? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, because it's tough too that you don't like Michael Kramer because he is such a presence, and like fantasy narration, he also does all the Wheel of Time books. I think it's his wife, Kate Redden, and they are quite highly thought of. But it'll be interesting to get more in the depth of what you don't like about him. But yeah, I think we'll break it down then. We'll start. You've mentioned some things that you don't like, but we'll get onto more depths about that. So
listen, I'm sorry, Michael. Okay, I really tried, but it just
no, Stephen.
I tried my best.
No, it's totally fine. That is your feelings. I'm just hoping that we don't get a barrage of angry fanboys coming down on us now.
Bring them on. Hey, bring them on, because I'll tell them why they're wrong.
Okay, so we start the story off here with a prologue. It takes place in one of the noble's manors, Lord Tresting. It starts with him entertaining an obligator who's sent to help bridge a partnership between Lord Venture, and then we are introduced to Kelsier. It's one of these houses where the Ska stay. He comes and kind of speaks to them about, you know, why they should feel aggrieved for their place in the world. He basically wants some action from them, and Lord Tresting then. So then he takes one of the Ska girls out of the house here, and we know that we're told then what happens to these women after they're slept with. They're then executed. So kind of in a fit of rage, then Kelsier kills Lord Tresting and all his soldiers, and then burns the manor to the ground. What did you guys think of this opening? Did it engage you with any kind of sense of mystery, or what didn't work about it? I'll start with you again, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of this kind of opening segment, was to kind of hook you and kind of create a bit of mystery about, especially this character Kelsier, but they also introduce you to the way that these Ska are treated. So you can already kind of, like, I feel from at that very opening kind of chapter, I already knew, about me and Stephen's guess being very close to the money, because of, you could just tell this was some kind of oppressed civilization. You just knew there was going to be some overlord or whatever, or some emperor that was, oppressing them. But no, I think it did start quite strongly for me. Obviously, I did say that I did love the book, so but I thought the opening for me did lead into the story quite well, and was a good start.
Yeah, narrator aside, yeah, I think it was a strong opening, to be honest. It did pique my interest. Like, there's a few things I came out of it wondering, like, what's a Ska? Why are they different than, like, I don't know, normal people or whatever? Why is there, like, the barren landscape and everything? Why do people, like, live on these almost, like, plantation things or whatever? What's going on? I wanted to know more. So yeah, it did hook me for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was a strong opening as well. It's been a while. It's been a long time. This book was released in 2006, I believe, and I think I first read it around 2010. So it's been a long time since I first read it. But yeah, I can remember feeling a lot of intrigue and mystery. I thought it was effective the way it pulled me in as well. So at the beginning of the novel, we're introduced to Van, who we see through her point of view that she was an abused street urchin. She's got a lot of trust issues. Especially for that were a result of how her brother treated her and how he showed her how the world worked and the things that he told her. They pull a job, but it gets a bit messy. The Steel Inquisitors are involved. Then we are introduced. Then Kelsier kind of brings her onto her crew, That's kind of the start of the book. What did you guys think of this part, and how did the introduction of all these characters and all these concepts, such as like the obligators and the Steel Inquisitors, how did this work for you?
I'll go first. This part of the book wasn't super memorable to me. To be honest, the stuff about like Vin being her trauma and all that was definitely a sticking point. But the stuff about the obligators and her crew and all, I can't really remember too much, to be honest.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about the obligators and about the Steel Inquisitors? Did you find them like a menacing threat?
I can't remember at the start, but definitely later on in the book. When we see a few more of them, they were definitely a bit of menace there, yeah. And I find myself wondering, like again, like with the Ska, what are these things?
Yeah.
Like, what are these creatures, and how are they made, and why? What do they? What's their purpose? Why do they exist?
Yeah. What about so you said at the start about the character interactions and stuff. So we have a few ones here where the crews are like sitting together and chatting. What about these parts? Do you remember much about this and how they worked for you?
Are you talking about Vin's crew at the very start?
Sort of that, and the part where they're brought on and we meet Kelsier's crew one by one.
Yeah, okay. So I don't really remember Vin's crew at all, but the Kelsier's crew, I did like meeting each of the characters, because they all have different abilities, and I thought that was a good way to kind of show off the different aspects of the magic system.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it kind of follows that heist kind of model where there's always an expert in one thing. In heist movies, it's always like there's the guy who's great at driving, there's the guy who can crack any safe in the world. So
yeah, that's why you need a crew, right?
Yeah,
because you need
And this fantasy version, it's basically each person has one of the magical powers. They're mistings, so they possess one of these powers, whereas somebody who is Mistborn has all the powers. So you might sometimes say that maybe they are the mistings are surplus to requirements, but later in the book we kind of get a justification for them where they're said to be like experts of their craft.
Yeah, it's like a Mistborn is like a jack of all trades, but the mistings or the kind of expert mistings are sort of the go-to guys.
Yeah.
Like, what was his name? What was the guy's name? The one that can soothe people.
Breeze.
Yeah.
Breeze. Yeah. He, you see him a lot flexing his abilities, being able to soothe people, not like big enormous crowds and stuff.
Yeah. What did you think, Jonathan, of the early parts of the books with the introduction of the crews and the introduction of Inquisitors?
So I think they start at the point where you're introduced to Eve and her crew. Like the kind of opening part of her storyline is them going and meeting an obligator, and essentially she refers to her power, which she doesn't know what it is at that point. She calls it her luck, and she obviously hasn't really told. Like I think the leader of the crew and her brother and stuff knew she had this power, but like to her it's like she's probably the only person that can do this, and she doesn't really understand it and where the power comes from and what actually how she's getting this power. But the fact then that she uses on the obligator, and then just a bit after that, then when she meets Kelsier, he's like, oh well, they can tell when you use that, and they're on to you now, and they're basically trying to hunt you down and stuff. I thought that was probably my favorite part of like the opening, just that it kind of started off straight away with her getting into trouble with these powers, but at that stage she didn't know. But then I did like the whole thing that it was kind of like this training throughout the book, then that it went on to about her learning more and more about this. It was very Karate Kid kind of, just some master of the powers teaching her. And then I did like the way that you felt that the Mistborn were maybe a bit overpowered, and the Mistings, it was a bit unfair, but then you were like, the Mistings could really hone that single skill, whereas the Mistborn just has so much to consider. and it's hard for them to become an expert in any one of the skills.
That part just on one of the things you said there about the Karate Kid sort of thing. That was one of the things that didn't sit right with me because there wasn't enough of it.
It was more about the balls than the actual like fighting, training, and stuff like that. It was more about her going to maybe should have spent a bit more on that.
Again, it kind of takes a back seat. You hear that they've done this training, except a few times like when she goes with Breeze and stuff, but other times, I think there could have been more of that, especially because it's kind of a first book trope. The hero learns all the powers, right?
Yeah.
Or starts that off. So I think there could have been a bit more than that. But anyway,
I like that the when the introduced ends, that I think whenever it's when Kelsier meets her and was more or less like a Steel Inquisitor was coming after you, and they introduce what a Steel Inquisitor is, like has this guy with his spikes for his eyes, and then I think they discuss later in the book how that actually works. It's like they can't see, but using the elements, they can like feel the world around them, things like that. So they're basically the Steel Inquisitors are essentially elementers who are experts in everything, is the way I kind of think of it. So, but no, I thought that was a really good kind of. I know what is it, the Lord
Ruler.
What do you call it? The Lord Ruler. Yeah, the Lord Ruler is like the ultimate enemy, but I felt like the Steel Inquisitors was kind of, because there was a few of those, it was kind of a very good kind of money boss kind of situation.
Yeah.
And if anything, they were more of a threat throughout the book because really you don't really interact with the Lord Ruler until the last few chapters, whereas the Steel Inquisitors, come and go. So I did really like that they were like the enemy. I thought it was a good enemy.
Yeah, I really like the Steel Inquisitors too. I like the design. It's extremely creepy. It's kind of a body horror-ish. And it follows that kind of that structure of fantasy books where the big evil lord he kind of has to stay out of the way to maintain this air of mystery and being above everything. It's like the Sauron is away somewhere, or Voldemort, he doesn't really appear until later in the books. And then you've got the minions who are more of a presence.
I think Sauron is a good comparison because if you think about Sauron, he doesn't really do anything in the end.
Yeah.
Right? He just exists, and without going too much into it, that's kind of the same here.
Yeah.
And the Steel Inquisitors are like the Nazgul.
Yeah, and the Nazgul are way more spooky to me than Sauron.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good comparison. Right?
Yeah. Well, Sauron's like the devil, isn't he? He's just the presence of evil.
Yeah.
He's just a representation of evil, which I suppose like the Lord Ruler kind of is in this as well. He's said to be a godlike being, and we don't really get much of him in this book. He doesn't actually appear in it much or speak in it much until towards the end. So I think as an after this where we get this scene where Kelsier basically goes through his plan, and
but just before we move on, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you remind me why she called it her luck? Is it because she was like soothing people and getting away with stuff?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like it was the only thing that like was going for her, like the only gift that she had essentially.
Yeah, so she was getting the metals on her stomach for like trace minerals, so she was only getting small amounts of the power, and she had no like concept of allomancy, so she just believed it was kind of like luck, that it was something that she was invoking, the way somebody might.
Should we talk about allomancy?
I was gonna go on to that after the plan, but we can jump to allomancy first if you want. Okay. So one of the big things about Brandon Sanderson books are the magic systems. He really goes into a lot of depth about the magic. What did you guys think about the magic in this book? There's two different magic systems that are named in this. The first is the big one, the one that's predominantly in the book. It's allomancy. What did you guys think of that?
It was certainly different. I did think it was interesting with the different aspects, and different metals do different things.
So basically that the the Mustings or the Mistborns, they just ingest these metals, pewter, steel, iron, and when they're inside their stomachs, before they get digested, they have the ability to burn them, and they give them different abilities, like a telekinetic control over metal for one of them. One pewter, I believe, enhances the strength. Copper, like, shields from other elements sensing the magic.
Ten makes sure you be able to see better. Is that?
I think it enhances
senses
all
in general.
senses. Yeah.
The senses, yeah.
Yeah. What did you think, Jonathan, of Allomancy?
Yeah, so like as I said before, the two kind of pillars of this book is the heist and the magic system, and I definitely enjoyed the magic system. Like, I thought the heist was a good concept, but it was just like a standard kind of heist story, whereas the magic system was just what I found so different and so captivating for me. I thought the balance in it, like, it was so like well designed, because like with magical powers, I think, like we said, like, yeah, you don't want that Superman kind of situation where he's just all powerful and like there's every power is just like no weakness. This is like, you know, every power, I like the idea that, you know, they came in pairs and you have a pushing and a pulling, and like, for example, taking the iron and the steel, if you're pulling something that's lighter than you, it's going to come flying at you. Likewise, if you push off something that's heavier, you actually need to anchor yourself if you want to do that, because when you push off something heavier than you actually go flying. And I thought, like, those kind of, like, you know, the way Kelsier's explaining this when he's teaching Fun, he's like, you know, you have to be careful if you do this, or like, you know, because a lot of the steel pushing and pulling with iron and stuff is about kind of flying through the air, essentially pulling and pushing off things. And I was like, oh well, that's actually quite good there, that, you know, you could actually mess this up if you're not good at it and you'll die, essentially.
Yeah.
And I like the variety of the powers. Like, some of them were so interesting. Like the one I especially like was the bronze. You know, it seemed like the bronze didn't really do much until then. She spoke with Kelsier's brother Marsh, and, you know, he was an expert on the bronze, and he taught her more about it. Like, because at that stage you were just like, well, why would you ever? I think, what was it, bronze? You can detect if there's an Allomancer beside you, but then copper can, like, hide if you're an Allomancer. So it's like, well, what's the point in bronze? But then, like, Marsh kind of explains that, you know, there's more to it. You can actually, like, feel, like, if someone's using Allomancer, you can actually feel the different types that they're using and stuff if you concentrate while using bronze. And I just thought, like, that was so well developed, and it was so interesting.
Yeah, so you can, like, use it to counter them, essentially, because you know what they're doing.
Yeah, and there's, like, because of the different combinations, there's so many possibilities with, like, you know, how fighting scenes can go on. So I just thought, it was just a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoy the magic system. One thing that it gets praised for being extremely well thought out, and it gets praised for being really creative. It does. I have read criticism about it. I think it was a Guardian review one time. I read that it feels a bit like a video game, is what they said. And I don't know if that's a criticism, to be honest, because it feels a bit reductive of video games as an art form. It's like, you know, what is wrong with games? But I haven't read that full review, so maybe it says more like it's unsuited to a book or something like that. But you agree with that part of the review, Stephen?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I do think the other. Actually, sorry. I meant to say, just for people listening, so when we talk about, like, ingesting metals, they're not just like eating a big chunk of steel, right? It's like shavings of you know.
Yeah. Yeah, very small amounts, and I believe, did they say it's like an alcohol solution or it's some kind of solution?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it preserves the purity or something. That's another thing, actually. The fact that, you know,
that was good.
You have this limited amount. You have, like, a limited amount of it. You have to ingest it, and then even if you did, like, take, like, loads of it and were using it, you can actually be, like, fatigued by it, or can, you know, lead to problems if you, like, flare it too much. So it's kind of like, you can't overuse it.
You can also get sick if you don't, like, refine it properly, which I thought was really
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Yeah, there's just everything surrounding this, the magic in this, I thought was just brilliant.
Yeah, it's definitely something deeply thought out. So there's another magic system in this book. Ferrokima gets introduced a bit later. It gets introduced in a scene where Van and Kelsier, they invade the Lord Ruler's palace complex, Craddock Shaw, and she is saved by the terrace man, Sazed. He exhibits like extreme strength, and she's wondering, what the hell is going on? Are you an Allomancer? But he explains to her that what he actually does is he stores power. So in order to accumulate that great strength, he's had to also have a period equal to that of being weak. And if he was to say like be 4 times stronger than that, then he would burn it 4 times faster. So it's basically it's an ability to store your own body's resources. What did you guys think of this magic?
Yeah, I thought this type of this system was more interesting to me. I like that it seems like you have to sacrifice more to get something out of it, which I think makes it more interesting. I think it also like what is it again?
You can I think you can give yourself an extra year, or like you give yourself more years of youth, but you have to basically be like fatigued or weak or older for that many years.
Yeah.
So it's not, but I think the whole maybe I suppose we're in the spoiler section anyway. But the whole thing with the Lord Ruler is that he can do both Allomancy and Ferrokimi. I didn't really understand whenever they explained it in the book how he was able to keep himself alive, but I guess if I went back and listened to it, like I'm not sure how like he was able to use this to keep himself like young forever, but I think it's because of the Allomancy he could like just continuously build the power with like faster than he was using it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, the way that I sort of, because I also did not really get this, even after reading this several times, it was kind of like, does that really make sense? The way that I think that worked is, it's saying that he could store has ferrochemical stores within the metal, but then when he burned them, it like amplified this, so he could like mix a small amount of this with like another metal, but then it would act like a bigger store. So I'm not sure how much sense that actually makes, but that was my understanding of it.
Yeah, no, it sounds what like I heard. Yeah, I guess I just don't understand how that works, but then again, it is a fantasy and I made up.
You are, yeah.
Thing, so.
I think I mean, even though it is magic, it's still reliant on rules that are established.
Yeah.
And it has sort of a physical and a mathematical logic to it. So, and you are our resident mathematician, Jonathan. So, I was hoping that it would make some more sense to you. But
I know, Jonathan. Why don't you have the answers?
I must have skipped the math lesson where we were doing.
How do I get more life? Tell me.
I thought like the whole. I don't want to jump ahead or anything, but it's like the whole way that it ended with like it was as simple as him being an Allomancer and a ferrochemist was how he was so powerful. Like I'm like, well, surely there's other people that have got this power, like, or is he like 1 in a million and he like make sure? I suppose that he was like killing all the ferrochemists.
Yeah, he's like
to
make sure
he's making them impotent, right? Or he's castrating
that's
them
right, yeah.
so that they can't breathe. So
yeah,
so it's like it's a passed down trait, not a learned thing.
Yeah, I think that doesn't say a lot throughout the book how he doesn't. For some reason, he lets Allomancers exist, but he's terrified of terrace men. He's always, trying to control them, control their population, and things like that. So I think that is the reason. He's just trying to minimize the probability. I think that he even has mentioned that it is possible for another Lord Ruler to exist, but it's just about him minimizing those odds.
One thing I don't understand is you just brought up there the terraceman. Is the terraceman and the keeper the same thing? Because like says it's both of those, or like.
So I think a terraceman is like a race of people, and a keeper is like his job.
Okay, so the keeper, so because he's a ferrochemist, he can use ferrochemy to like store the knowledge or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like metal mines. It's knowledge within these metals that can be. It's basically like a human hard drive. a human external hard drive. You can store all these memories on and access
them.
And then
if he like has a ring, he can store it in the ring, and then if he just goes and gets the ring, then he can retrieve the memory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which I thought was it's also a pretty interesting concept.
Yeah, I think it was a bit complex. Is my only criticism on it, but then again, I think that's what makes it so interesting, is that it is complex.
Yeah.
Can I make a prediction about the Lord Ruler, Michael? You don't have to put this in, and I can ping you it if Jonathan doesn't want spoilers.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh no, that is said in the book, Stephen.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That sucks.
So,
I wasn't listening to this.
So it is revealed the reason that Van knows how to defeat the Lord Ruler in the end is that she realizes that that's what he's doing. He's using ferrochem, and she knows that he is a terraceman because she sees using this metal. They're not sure, like it's hyped up by Kelsier. The 11th metal will hold the key to beating them and everything. And we see before Kelsier is killed by the Lord Ruler, we see him smile after using the metal. So we're like, he has revealed some way how to defeat him. But we can't tell why, because when Van uses the metal, all she can see is like a previous version of the Lord Ruler, but nothing physical happens. And then this leads her to the conclusion. I think it's that he looks like a Pac-Man, that he's the terrace man.
Oh,
he's not the person. He's not the person writing the journal. He is the terrace man that the guy was with. He killed the guy that wrote the journal. Yeah.
Okay, so just for the listener, there's a journal that they find that seemingly belongs to the Lord Ruler. But when he like rewrote the Earth, basically, right?
Yeah.
And they like study this and hope to find a way to defeat him.
Yeah.
So my prediction was that basically what Michael said there, that the Lord Ruler wasn't the writer of the journal. He was the sort of one of the followers.
The pack of the terrace man, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I forgot all about that part.
Listening to double speed, you obviously, it went under your head and it was in there somewhere, but you just didn't know that you knew it.
Hey, you know what? Like, I thought that was going to happen, right? But obviously I built up the speed thing, right? So I started listening at 1.5, and then I got up a bit more and a bit more. And by the end, it was like going 2.5 times faster, and I was like, geez, I'm picking more of this up than I thought I would, But I really had to focus on it, though. I couldn't be doing anything else.
Yeah.
It actually took me a while. I actually really liked that, at the end of every chapter there was that wee segment of the journal.
Yeah.
That too.
Like, I didn't actually realise like what he was reading there. Like, I think he starts that before they find the journal, so like
I think
you
it's
don't actually know.
If memory serves, when I read the physical book, I think it's actually at the beginning of each chapter. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's...
No, is it at the beginning?
The beginning,
I think so, yeah.
Oh, well, I suppose I just, because I listened to like the audiobooks and the chapter just goes over, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think I didn't really distinguish which one was. But anyway,
yeah.
Like I never realised that that's what they're reading until like halfway through it.
That is something I was going to ask you guys about too. Was it clear that was not part of the chapter? And if it wasn't, how long did it take to realise this was something else? Because it's something that I didn't think completely works in an audio form, because you're not really sure that, is this not the beginning of the chapter? It's a bit confusing.
Yeah, well, like I said, it took me half the book.
Yeah, I don't think it works. Remind me again, was there like chapter markers in this book? Did it like, say chapter 10 or whatever?
It would just say like 10. Like 10, it wouldn't say chapter 2, it would just be 10.
Yeah, I think it does work, but only with those in place. Like if it just switched over, that would be kind of annoying.
Yeah. I know our review has kind of gone everywhere in terms of plot, so we are just jumping around at this stage. I want to ask you guys more about the heist aspect of this book. So at the beginning, Kelsier tells everybody that the plan is to basically take the Lord Ruler's ATM reserves, and that's going to be the key to getting at him, basically. And they as part of the plan, Van has to infiltrate the nobility. She has to ignite this war among the nobles, and in doing that, she has to impersonate somebody. Well, she completely makes up the person of Valette Renew, and as part of this, she does go to a lot of balls, which
is the worst part of the book.
You did not like at all, Stephen. It's
no,
quite.
I did not like the ball part where she goes to 10 balls and they're all the same and nothing happens.
During these balls, she meets Ellen Venture, it's basically the most powerful noble house. He's the heir to this house. So you didn't get anything out of these chapters, Stephen. It was just a complete drag for you.
I mean, yeah, it was a drag, but okay. The part with the Venture guy, I was like, okay, does he know that she's like a ska the whole time? I was wondering, or is he gonna double cross her or something? I was trying to work out what was going on there. That did have my interest a bit, but again,
yeah,
she went to like 50 million balls. And I was like, okay, can we see some of the heist? Can we see, like, Ham doing some of his stuff with the army thing? Can we see that? No, we have to go to another ball.
Yeah, actually, now that Stephen said that, like, I do agree that that's just the way they should have done it, because it felt like the whole setup of the heist was mostly focused on what Finn had to do for it, and fair enough, go to her part, but go to the other people's parts as well. Everybody else's, was just highlighted. Oh, I went and did this, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So
you think this book it would have been better, especially towards the middle, if like this was written in multiple POVs instead of just strictly staying to Vin's point of view?
Well, not necessarily, right? If it was one of the other characters where they have to prepare in some way was the main POV, like Breeze or whatever. I can't remember the other people's names. Except for Ham. Yeah, if it's centered on them preparing for the heist, maybe, right? But her part in the heist is that she has to get information on the nobles, right? And it's just that's the most boring part, the information gather. Unless I don't know.
Yeah,
I think if it was one of the other people, then it doesn't have to be a POV thing. But because it was her, I would have preferred the POV switching.
Because it seems like a waste, like that she's got all these hidden powers. Like it should have been maybe from her point of view, but like she comes with Ham on, like, I know she does this a wee bit when she's learning, she goes with Breeze to do some, but like if she was more involved in every part of the heist, because she's got all these different skills, like she's got all these different powers which will come in handy for all these different things, she should like probably be involved in all these different things, rather than her part is just this getting information, which doesn't really even seem to involve a lot of elements, I think.
Yeah,
and also doesn't matter in the end.
Yeah, I think the book is like, it's trying to be like, in these parts it's trying to be both an action book, but it's also in these parts trying to be like a political intrigue. And when you compare it to something that is also political intrigue and like the Game of Thrones series, Brandon Sanderson's definitely not as good at doing that. He's a lot better when he's writing like fantastical things happening, like action scenes and wonderful big plot twists and magic and stuff like that. I don't think his characters are as well fleshed out as somebody like George R. Martin. You said, you alluded to this at the beginning, Stephen, that you didn't connect with a lot of the characters.
No, well, like, they seem very, very forced into their role. Okay, so let's take Kelsier, for example, right? He's supposed to be this charming, like, mischievous rogue guy, right? And he just doesn't portray that at all, apart from, okay, he sits backwards on chairs sometimes, and Brandon Sanderson really had to drive home that he was doing that every single time he was in the room, right? But I didn't find him charming. I didn't find him funny or anything or whatever he's supposed to be. It's like we're told that he's supposed to be these things, so you're supposed to view him that way, but it just didn't come off that way. And Vin is supposed to be like what's the word? Like obviously she's like a tortured soul who has to go to these balls and spend time with people who've like enslaved her people her whole life and all, but then she really gets into it and switches to where she's like, she likes going to these things because they're fun, and then she becomes a different character, and I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I like Van and I like Kelsiera's characters. The rest of the crew, they're kind of it's like it's matching what a heist movie is. Basically, you don't know much about them. They feel one note because there's that many, and they're supposed to achieve this specific goal. So I don't think that's really an issue for me. Brandon Sanderson's talked about how he wishes he had more female characters in this book if he could go back, which I think would have benefited definitely on the crew, just to give a bit more distinctiveness, because kind of, I don't know, a lot of them blend together for me sometimes. And I think if you had a way to make them slightly more different.
The crew members blend together, you're saying?
Yeah.
See, I have the opposite feeling. I do think the different crew members are well fleshed out. You know, you've got Breeze, who's like the arrogant who doesn't really want to be there, but he does. You know.
Yeah.
And you've got what was the guy called? The 10-eye guy, Clubs. Yeah. Is he a 10-eye one?
Oh, we've got Spook.
No, he's the strength one.
Spook's the 10-eye, isn't he?
Clubs is who I meant anyway. He doesn't agree with the heist that they're going on, but he does it anyway because he thinks they might make some money out of it. Or, yeah. And Ham is the kind of stereotypical brute force guy, right? Who seems a bit dozy. Yeah. But then he's doing it to make money for his family and everything. You know, I did think they were a bit more than one note, even though they're supposed to be one note.
Yeah. Well, I can kind of see your point there. When you put it like that, they are well developed, but I just don't think they're distinctive enough from each other. For me, like, I think they could have been made a bit more unique or had a bit more unique voice. I think like Spook stands out a lot. Obviously, the way he talks and everything has slang.
Well, this goes back to this just to finish off. Yeah. That goes back to what I was saying before, or what we were all saying before. That I think it would have been better served if they focused more on the different aspects of the heist, rather than just focus on what Vin's doing and going to all these balls. You know, if we had seen more of Ham and the army part, or Breeze and his people, or Clubs doing whatever he was doing, I think, they would have been more fleshed out. So, yeah.
Jonathan, what did you think about the characters overall?
Yeah, I liked most of the characters. I thought, had a good development. Like, I feel like the ones like Breeze, Clubs, and Ham, like, they were more minor characters. There was definitely a big distinction between, which I suppose you do have in most stories, like Kelsier and Vam, and maybe even Sazed, were definitely a lot more, like, they got a lot more attention for it. I feel like more focusing on the whole team as well, like having more main characters. But then, like, I suppose then that makes the book even longer and stuff. But there was one thing I couldn't stop thinking about, was, like, you know, Kelsier and Marsh, brothers. I just kept drawing the comparison that they're very like Sherlock and Mycroft from the BBC.
I was thinking that too.
I couldn't get that out of my head. Like, Kelsier's like Sherlock. He's always like got his nose in something. He's very like proactive, and whereas you have Marsh is more reserved and more, and like he's even on the government kind of side of things, you know. But I thought that the story backstories and stuff were quite good. Yeah, about like Ham doing it for his family. Even like I like the Kelsier one. I like the way that story turned out. The way his wife died in like the pits of Half Sin, but then everyone thinks like there's this like kind of chatter not really behind his back, because he even thinks about it too. But the fact that she betrayed him, because the Lord Ruler like thinks her, like the way that he thinks her, for essentially leading to Kelsier's capture and stuff. Yeah. But I like the way that it came then, that, you know, I think Vam uses the bronze and she knows what metal Kelsier's burning, even though he's burning copper as well, like she can tell. And that means that's the Lord Ruler, like if she could do it, the Lord Ruler could have done it, which meant that he would have known that they were coming. And that's why, like, everyone, like, it's like they were sneaking in that room that Kelsier wanted to get into, and like they knew he was coming, even though that it was only his wife and one other person that knew about the plan. And they're like, well, how did they know we were coming? But then, Vim gives a good explanation, but you never actually know, did she betray him or not? But it kind of like ends on that high note of like, oh, maybe she didn't betray him.
Yeah. So
I really.
So it's like alluded to that she didn't betray him, but because she was using allomancy, that gave him away.
And that's why the Lord Ruler thinks, because I was able to detect her because she was using it, but he misinterpreted why he thanked her. But no, I thought like we like kind of like backstories like that, even though that's not. I suppose it is important to story because it's more or less Kelsier's main motivation is kind of this revenge. But I just like the way like those stories were, those backstories, and then Vim had the whole bad upbringing, like her brother, betrayed her, but in the end, didn't betray her. She always thought that he was going to like sell her out, but in the end, it ended up he didn't. He actually died keeping her secret.
Sort of parallels Kelsier's kind of backstories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I like those wee stories, but I feel like they were only really well developed for those main characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my criticism.
I think like the strongest part about the characters as the motivations of Vin and Kelsier. Like I think those are explored really well through the story. I think.
What's Vin's motivation?
So Vin's motivation is just basically to survive. She's just an urchin.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you were like hinting at something like bigger, like she had motives about something.
No, there's nothing bigger really revealed. I think she's kind of described, the way she moves is kind of animalistic, so it's kind of she's almost feral. Mm-hmm. But then she has this arc kind of where she becomes more in tune to the nobles, and then she kind of piggybacks on Kelsier's cause, and Kelsier's cause, of course, he wants revolution. He wants to bring down the Lord Ruler, and he's not completely honest about that goal in the beginning. He kind of says it's about creating this house war, but what Kelsier is actually doing throughout this book is he is manufacturing a religion, which is why he takes such interest with Sazed and is always asking him about these religions, because he's trying to understand religion, because he realizes this is the Lord Ruler's true power. It's that they think that he's a god, or at least this is Kelsier's theory. And I think
that
like
was
that's
something I caught really late into reading the book. That he was doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a big theme of the book. It's like the power of religion. It's how religion can obviously be used in a very bad way, the control, the way it oppresses people, but it's also making this point that religion can be used to bring people together, to give them hope. I think is also part of the premise. Brandon Sanderson's a Mormon. He is part of the Mormon Church, so he obviously is very passionate about religion, and I think he handles religion quite well, especially for a very religious person. I don't think he holds it up. I think he can hold it both in a negative and positive light. He can show those both sides of it in an interesting way. What do you guys think of that, of Kelsier's plan and the way that all ties together?
Yeah, I think like Stephen said there, he didn't catch it too. I didn't really feel like it was maybe meant to be caught. Like I suppose you could, but I didn't really understand that this is what he was doing the whole time. Like because they did only reveal it near the end of the book. But I mean, I guess it's like anything. Once it is revealed, you're kind of like, well, how did I not understand this was his goal in the whole time? But I mean, I think I was kind of a bit blinded by this revenge story. I thought it was just going to be, this is all about his revenge. Whereas actually, in order to get his revenge, it's not like this pure blind hatred where he's going to just do whatever he can. He's very clever about it. And he actually uses this common goal that he has reason. They combine that with, an actual good reason, which is the free Ska humanity, essentially. But I think, I like the way that this went. You did say about him dying with a smile on his face too. Like he had this belief in this 11th medal, and I think that was kind of like what it was. Even though he had this plan, he knew that they kept saying over and over that they're not going to be able to destroy the Lord Ruler. It doesn't matter if the whole Ska civilization rebels. The Lord Ruler is still going to be too powerful. I could just kill them all anyway. But it's like the Kelsier, was banking everything on this, and then right at the end he was like, "Oh, this is going to do it." And then he knew Vim was obviously like his protege, and he knew that she would know what to do. She would figure it out in the end. So I really liked how the story kind of panned out then towards the end of the book.
Yeah, I thought those reveals for me anyway were very satisfying. I think Brandon Sanderson is great at hiding things like that throughout his book, and then just all of a sudden popping them out, and then they both feel inevitable, but they feel surprising as well. Like that the fact that the 11th metal, it was held up to be this incredible gift, and then when you saw it work, you were like, that's not really that great, but it secretly did hold the key to all of this. What did you guys think of the ending? Right from the moment, we'll define the ending basically from the moment that the Lord Ruler kills Kelsier, the houses revolt. Vun fights Ellen's fiance. It's revealed to Ellen her true nature, what she is. She's a Ska and she's a Mistborn. Vun she gets imprisoned in Creedic Shaw in a cell with Sazed. She has that confrontation with her father, and then obviously when Sazed breaks them out, she has the confrontation with the Lord Ruler and finally learns the secret to defeating him. How did all this section of the book, what did you guys think of it?
I thought the ending after Kelsier's death, I thought it was all very, very rushed, to be honest. There's a lot of build up, and then it just speeds along where she fights that girl, the other Mistin, or is she a Mistborn?
Shan, I think she's a Mistborn.
Yeah, she's a Mistborn. Yeah,
she's a Mistborn as well. Yeah, the fight. I like the fight, but it was very, very rushed. She just storms the Lord Ruler's gaff and just batters everybody effectively, and then you find out that he was the terraceman, and then that's it. It wasn't like I thought it was kind of lackluster. It wasn't really satisfying ending, to be honest. But maybe there's open for the next books to continue on. I don't know.
Yeah. What did you think of the ending segment, Jonathan?
I again really enjoyed it. I think the kind of breaking into two parts. I guess the whole thing with Ellen, it was just an extra. It didn't really feel very important. This whole kind of love story between him and Vin. It was more of a case of her she was so destroyed by life. Could she ever kind of find happiness or whatever? So it was kind of maybe I suppose to kind of fill that void of that story. But I didn't really feel like it was too important for me. It didn't really it was more she was saving him as opposed to him contributing much. I know he does come in the end to help getting them out, but that was about it. I didn't particularly enjoy that part, but I don't mind that it was in the book. I feel like it was a good backstory to have for her as well, or a good side story even. But the from the part where even just before Kelsier dies, when I mentioned kind of one of my favorite parts was that Marsh, his brother, was killed, or so he thought, and then that he came back as the Steel Inquisitor and he kills all the other Inquisitors.
Yeah,
and
I did like that.
It's essentially, even if Vim did figure out how to beat the Lord Ruler, would she have been able to do that if all those Steel Inquisitors came in? So I really liked the way he just came back. He thought he was dead. There was a comparison I did have in my mind. It's he had to become a Steel Inquisitor, even though he probably didn't want to become this essentially this monster. But he did it for the greater good. I can't remember what my comparison was, but I did like that kind of that bit. That was my favorite part.
I thought what you were leaning towards was to compare it to Kelsier, how he becomes kind of a lot of his crew even say to him, chill the hell out with because he kind of murders a lot of these noblemen in cold blood, and his justification is if you are part of the system, you're directly complicit.
Yeah, I guess. I was like thinking of like an outside source, like it's like that character of becoming like one of the bad guys essentially, but still serving the good. As essentially a way of infiltrating. I'm sure there's loads of examples, but there's one I have in mind, but I can't think of it now. But no, I think that was my favourite part, was just him coming back and kind of saving her, and then he gets the Lord Ruler kind of mangles him, and then ends up defeating the Lord Ruler. So I really like that. I liked how like it was. I feel like whenever kind of coming on that story, in most cases, apart from maybe Game of Thrones and stuff, that the good guys usually win, and like she was going to defeat him. Like you can feel that that's going to happen, but you're like, how? And I like the fact that it was just like it wasn't. They kind of explained it well. Maybe not well because we said we don't understand it, but like that it was simply just a mixture of like two of the magic powers. Like it seemed like, even though us as the readers we had trouble understanding it, it feels like something that like it was so simple for the actual characters, because they understand this world. So that it was actually some very simple thing to defeat him, but that this 11th medal that Kelsier was called, like it was foreshadowed throughout the whole thing that this was going to be the key, and it actually was. But it was kind of very unexpected how it was going to be. Like I didn't realize that it was going to be. It was more like her just figuring out something about the past, rather than like you kind of thought the 11th medal was going to give her some kind of super ability to defeat him, where it was more like it just like it enlightened her about something that I thought it was so clever the way it was done.
Yeah, I love this segment of the book. I love Brandon Sanderson's ending. There's actually a word for it. I think it's called the Sanderlanche, or like avalanche, but basically just how everything goes completely ballistic at the end of his books, where there's all these reveals and there's all these action scenes, and it just kind of all melts together and goes crazy. I don't think it was rushed the way Stephen did. I enjoy the pacing. It's definitely a big step up in terms of pacing from the rest of the book. But I don't know, maybe I'm just more attuned to Brandon Sanderson's style of doing this, where he just, this is how his books end. This is what I know when I pick up a Brandon Sanderson book.
I actually liked like that, because I feel like, if you had the section where Kelsier died, and then there's this kind of like, everybody's moping about and depressed, whereas it's kind of like he dies at the key moment, and like they're straight on it, like, he dies just before this is all about to kick off. I thought that was really like compelling. Like it was, I like that.
Yeah, it's the catalyst for like the uprising. And then we kind of get this, the Lord Ruler is he's just ambivalent about it. He's just like, yeah, it happens every now and then, and it's like none of it matters, which was kind of an interesting take on it, that he would just rebuild again. But yeah, I really like the endings, Brandon Sanderson's endings. I love the wild action scenes and the reveals and the constant plot twists of it.
Okay, so here's my like main problem with the ending, right? And it's not to do with the speed, okay? So throughout the book, there's all these build-ups, right? There's multiple things being built up. Like they're building this rebellion army, right? They're setting up the heist. And the Lord Ruler is supposed to be unkillable, and he's amazing, okay? And by the end of the book, only one of them sort of pays off, okay? So let's go through them, right? So the rebellion just gets decimated off screen, okay?
I think, did they not say that the rebellion has taken the city? That they've basically taken over the monastery?
I think he means the first
sorry.
Group.
Not
the first group.
Not the rebellion. I'm talking about the army that they make, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that gets absolutely decimated, right? And that's a big like setup thing to start. So there's no payoff there. Then we have what was the other one I said? What was the second one I said? Blank.
You don't even say anything.
There was the rebellion, then the heist. Sorry, yeah, of course the heist. So there's all this setup for the heist, and then there is no heist. They just don't do it because of reasons, right?
Yeah.
So it's a heist book without the heist, right? Which was a big gripe of mine. And then the Lord Ruler, yes, he kills Kelsier, right? Easily. But then he just dies at the end really easily as well. So, I mean, that one sort of paid off, but not really. Unless he comes back later, and that wasn't really him, which is my other guess for the rest of the series.
I think like all the things Stephen, like the things that Stephen has just mentioned there, like is all the reasons I actually really like this book. I think it's funny the fact that, like, you know, I feel like any heist like film or TV show or whatever, it's like they make this big mad elaborate plan, and in any of them, can you name me any of them where it goes to plan? Like, it always never goes to plan.
The only time it does is when you don't know the plan. Like, such as like
exactly.
The Ocean's 11 ones.
Plan.
But if you are told the plan, exactly what Jonathan's saying, if you are told the plan by the crew and you see each element, it all has to go wrong. That's just how it has to work. It, because we can't see what they're saying come to fruition, because then we've been told the plot.
Not entertaining.
Yeah,
but like none of it. Like, okay, I agree, right? But none of it happens. They literally do not go on the heist.
Yeah, I guess like I think that's kind of like funny that the way that happens, like that it doesn't end up happening, like that it goes so not the plan, the plan doesn't even happen. Like they go a completely different way.
Yeah.
But no, I think I do understand what Steve would say. Like I think it's one of those things that is like you either love it or you hate it, and like I think that's why there's such a contrast here in like our views.
Yeah, I can't see validity in what he's saying, because it essentially genre skips. It stops being a heist and it starts to become more conventional fantasy, and like maybe it's like the promise is this is going to be an awesome heist, and because that isn't what happens, maybe that feels unsatisfying to Stephen.
That's what I'm saying.
But the reason like the army getting decimated and stuff doesn't bother me at all is because, as Jonathan was saying, it's like it's stuff going wrong in a heist. It's these things that are built up through the fun of the heist, and then it's just like these elements are slowly taken out. So it's like,
okay, but let me elaborate on that. So it's not so much that they get decimated, right? It's that you don't even see it, right? It's off screen.
Yeah, I can sort of see that, but the reason that I still like it is because we get that great scene of like Van and Kelsey are pewter burning and running through exhaustion, which I love that. And I think that was like, it was worth that, seeing them push themselves to their absolute limit. It was worth seeing that. If we are going to see this story strictly through Van's eyes, then say hypothetically that Van was there for some reason, I would have rather had it play out the way it did than had Van been there and witnessed it or something.
Yeah, I mean, I see your points, but it just wasn't for me.
I just want to mention something that like, every time there's a break like that I'm not speaking, I keep thinking about this. I just really like the name Kelsier. It's like just such a cool name. Like I'm just like, should I call, if I get a dog in the future, is that what I should call it? Like, what's everyone's thoughts?
Yeah, I
call
think Brandon Sanderson.
Clubs and Vum.
I think it's a good name. I think Brandon Sanderson does come up with good names. The only names I don't like in this book are Lord Ruler, which is very very cliche for like a book that is so going against cliches in fantasy. And the Lord Ruler's palace complex being called Creedic Shaw, it kind of sounds weird and out of place. But I think all the other names are great in this, like Van, Scadrial, Kelsier.
That did feel out of place. A few of the other characters are kind of like tropey as well. Like Ham is a tough guy. Breeze, literally, he soothes people. He's a soothing breeze. Okay, stuff like that.
I think that I know. I'm not
necessarily criticizing him for that. I'm just.
I know. Yeah, I know. I keep using the same defense, but I think that as like it's another like homage kind of to like heist. The heist movies and stuff that Brandon Sanderson obviously would have used as like the skeleton of this book.
I would agree on that. I'm not. As I said, I'm not criticizing. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah. If maybe there's a book called Lies of Loch Lamora, which is also I think it was published around this time. It's written by Scott Lynch. It's a fantasy book, and it has more conventional heist. So I think something like that could potentially be more up your street, Stephen. And
who's narrating it?
I can't remember. I don't think I've actually ever listened to the audiobook. I've only read the physical book, but I don't think it's Michael Kramer.
Michael Page.
No, it's another Michael. We're all terrible.
From the Gentleman Bastard series, oh man.
It's such I love those books. It's like they're kind of like the setting's kind of Assassin's Creed-y as well. They're great books, and it's kind of like the enemy is like the mob. So it's
right. You just ruined my pick for next book, by the way. So
I was gonna say something else about this. Oh well, I suppose then we should talk a bit more. I know we all touched on it briefly, but since it was such a big sticking point, let's talk a bit about the narrator. Stephen, you go first and explain your feelings about Michael Kramer.
It's not necessarily Michael Kramer, right? It's just that style of narration where it's very, very monotone. And I couldn't get any emotion out of the characters from what he was saying. It's all literally monotone. It's all one note. There's, happy and sad are the same. So it just doesn't work with my ears. I had the same problem with Inferno. If you remember, there's a very similar sort of style there. I like a more what's the word, like exciting narrator. They put every character feels different sort of thing, and I just didn't get that with this one or any narrator of that style. And I get that it's the commonplace in fantasy books, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, like I said at the start, if you have issues with Michael Kramer, it is a bit unfortunate with fantasy books because he also does The Wheel of Time, and I think he does like basically all of Brandon Sanderson's fantasy books anyway. Yeah, I can sort of see where you're coming from, Stephen. Michael Kramer, he's not one of my top narrators, but I still do enjoy him. He's kind of seamless for me. He just feels invisible. He doesn't inject much of himself into the story, but it's just like having somebody read the story out rather than acting the story out.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I like it to be properly acted, like that I can. It helps me sort of visualize the book as though it's like a show in my head.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what you just said. Where he's kind of just he's doing nothing special for me, but he's just like he's easy to understand and it's like easy for me to listen to. So he's just reading the story, and I don't really need to think much about what I'm hearing in terms of his voice. I can just focus on the actual words. Whereas like I do like say Stephen Fry, for example. He puts the like Stephen saying, the acting on it, and I feel like that's part of what you're listening to, which I think is good for like this things like Harry Potter. But for this here, like I thought, like having this guy's voice was quite good for like explaining things, which I felt like because of this complex magic system and obviously a heist as well. There's a lot of like going through steps. I think that suited that well. So overall, like I would say, it was good. Like, he's nothing special, but I thought it was grand to listen to. Like,
Okay, so we're gonna go into our rating segment. I will start with Jonathan before Stephen absolutely decimates this book.
So right. Coming on before we had any discussion here, obviously these discussions, which I quite, they like a lot of what Stephen says, enlightened me of things, did bring things that I didn't even think about as being like downsides, kind of. Before I was definitely going to give this a 5, and I did on like the Audible. However, I still really really love this book, but just because of the few little points like the whole situation with the ball being too long and not focusing on some of the other heist members more, the narrator just was grand, but wasn't a 5 for me. So I'm going to pull it down to a 4.5. So it was just slightly off the mark, but I absolutely love the story of this book.
Good man, Johnny. I did my job then. Happy days.
Okay, Stephen, what is your rating of this book?
I've been again, like I said at the start, I've been dreading this part for weeks now. I've been thinking back and forth what to give this the book, and it's hovering around a 1 for me. Right, I don't want to give it a 1 because it seems a bit unfair when so many people love the book. But
I think though, if you hated it, that is our rating system.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going. That's what I was going to say. Okay, so yeah. I've been kind of not wanting to give it a 1 because I really didn't like it. But there were aspects of the story and the world that I did like. Like obviously we talked about the magic system. I think they're both, the two of them are both very different. You don't really see anything like those elsewhere. So that's a plus. I think that gives it the 1. Okay. But also there's other stuff like the world. I found myself trying to kind of picture how the landscape looks. So like with the different plantations and stuff and the mist kind of all around it. I thought that was really interesting. I almost wanted more of that to be explored. You hear sometimes the ska talking about traversing the mists and how it's so dangerous and stuff. I kind of wanted to see a bit more of that. So yeah, I think that pulls it up a wee bit for me as well. So I'm gonna say 1.5.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess I'll go on to mine. I really love this book as well. As I said at the start of why I recommended this book in the first place was because it is so original and such a breath of fresh air into a genre I was starting to find kind of stale. As much as I love Tolkien, I really start to grow weary of like direct Tolkien imitations. And if anybody out there is writing like a fantasy book that uses all Tolkien tropes, please keep writing that book, because there are people out there who have never read one. Like, as I saw somebody defending Aragon before, because Aragon's a book that copies Star Wars beat for beat, but so many people love that book because not everybody has seen Star Wars, and even people who have seen Star Wars, maybe they want just a bit more Star Wars. So if you are writing like a Tolkien book, keep going with that, because there are especially younger readers and people who aren't as in depth, who maybe haven't read that, who aren't looking for all these cliche bending books. Keep going with that, because even though I'm criticizing the Tolkien books, it's just something I want. I want something that does something a bit different, which I think that Brandon Sanderson books do. He plays with culture, religion, history and stuff in a really interesting way. I think there is a lot of validity to the criticisms about the characters that Brandon Sanderson does. They can feel a bit stilted at times. They're not as well developed as like two of my favorite writers, like George R.R. Martin and Stephen King, write such rich, real characters. I don't think Brandon Sanderson has ever been that way. He inclined, his books are they're kind of like Marvel movies, where they're these big action set pieces, and I think like the parts where he was doing like political intrigue in the middle of the book does drag a bit for me as well. This book, in my opinion, is a great start and a great ending, and there are parts in the middle that drag in the balls. Although I did like some of that. I did like some of the interactions with Elend and Van. So there were too many scenes of those.
That's the tropiest part of the book. What are you talking about? Sorry.
It could have been cut down a bit, and but still love this book. I would say the first time I read this, it was probably a 5. I just was so blown away with this. For second or third time, I think, reading this now, I would probably give it agree with Jonathan and give it a 4.5. Michael Kramer, I do think he is a good narrator, but I don't think he's fantastic the way like Stephen Fry or who Mark Meadows, wasn't it, that I don't think he's quite anywhere at that level. But for me, it didn't make the book boring or anything. I still really enjoyed listening to him reading it. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.5. And Steve, yeah.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, and Stephen, you apologized before starting your review and saying you feel bad. I'm really glad that you were honest and everything. I feel bad that this was such a long book and that you didn't like it, because that must have been tough to get through all of that. But no, I mean that's what we want to do here. We want to be a place where we can share honest opinions. So, you know, well, that's what we want.
At the start, it was tough, right? But then when I got the speed going, it wasn't so bad. Yeah,
that is a good option to have for audiobooks that are a slog, I guess, for people.
Thing is, though, I don't like doing it because, as I said, I like to visualize the story, and it's impossible when you're...
Yeah. Yeah, so that's our review.
What about Roy Dotrice? Do you not like him? Is it?
I like. Well, we're gonna do Game of Thrones books someday, but I like Roy Dotrice. Yeah, we always talk about his Jeffrey and his
that's what I was getting at.
Caitlin and stuff like that. But no, he's a good voice actor, and he does a lot of the little nasally evil voice a lot. He relies on that a lot, but I still find him entertaining to listen to.
Every time he talks, I just think of Mr. Amen. Like that's what he looks like.
You can tell that he's old. I've never seen him, but you can tell that he's old.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to the audiobooks of Game of Thrones, Jonathan? Just while we're on the subject.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I mean, he's alright to listen to, but I guess we'll talk more about that when we get to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Just a question. So Aragon is a beat for Star Wars.
Yeah.
I used to love those books, right? And I never noticed that. This was when I was 10 or something. Whenever they came
That's
out.
because you read them when you were young and you probably weren't as attuned to things like that, you know. If you go back and listen to them again or watch the movie or whatever, you will definitely pick up on that.
I still have the books. I must have a read.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how much it mirrors Star Wars, and I think your guy is Paolini, is that his name?
Christopher Paolini or something like that.
Yeah. He's been very honest too, that he basically did just Google how to write a fantasy book and just lifted all these things and just mirrored Star Wars, which was probably his favourite movie. But yeah, it's a book I didn't like because I read it too late. If I had read it when I was young too, I probably would have loved it.
I was just so sad that they didn't make any more films. They made one. They made the first book and they didn't do the rest that I know of.
I just really don't want to put anybody off who's listening to this who is they're like, damn it, I've written a book with orcs and elves and stuff. Now I have to start all over again. It's just just write that book, because there are people who still want to read those kind of books, you know.
Damn, I just bought Aragon.
So what you're saying then, just to summarise that, is if one of you ever suggested to do the Aragon book, I could just go watch A New Hope and I'd be able to comfortably do this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, you have to watch it again. What, you just wouldn't know? What are you talking about? Could do that with my eyes closed. My ears closed.
If we did do Aragon, I would be setting my new low score record.
Just going to get loads of recommendations now for Aragon.
Yeah, so comparison to other media, there's no movie for Mistborn or anything. It has been Brandon Sanderson books. They're obviously these huge bestsellers. I think after George R. R. Martin, he has the biggest best-selling fantasy author in the world. So obviously a lot of TV rights and movie rights are being argued and thrashed out. There's nothing really for his Cosmere right now, but I think it is inevitable, based on how much money these books make, that there will be something in the future. As I said, in terms of heist fantasy, another one that I recommended there was the Lives of Loch Lamora. If anybody wants more in that kind of niche, I love that book as well. It's very different from this book, but it's really good as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick that up.
Yeah, it's the characters are. I think you'll enjoy that book a lot more. I'll just say, Stephen. Yeah.
I maybe just like to add that, like, I think you said there earlier, Michael, about there was like a Guardian review saying like it was like almost criticizing this, saying comparing the game, like the actual idea here, I think would make a brilliant game, which I think is actually like, you know, a good thing about it. It's actually given me like even just like see the powers, the metal pushing and pulling. I think that would even make like a good kind of like money game. Like I'm trying to get on the game programming, so I'm actually now using that as an idea for my first game.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so like it's gonna. I feel like that, but like it's obviously gonna probably just be like a wee, almost like maybe like a puzzle kind of game. Like, you know, you have to get like one from one side of the map to the other using this pushing and pulling idea. Something like that. You know, just the concept taken into this game. But because I'm only starting out, I'm not going to be building the next AAA game. Like, but I feel like even like creating this kind of world in like a Skyrim-esque game with these kind of powers, probably would be quite interesting. But yeah, I think the thing I liked about this is there is nothing else quite like this magic system. So I don't think there is anything else to compare this to. Obviously heists, you know, are done loads, but I think taking a completely unique magic system and putting it on top of a very well defined story such as a heist is just a brilliant idea. But
I totally agree, Jonathan, that I think it would make a great game. I think it is perfectly set up to be adapted into a game. Maybe that is also inevitable.
I would agree too. Yeah, it does seem like it would be a good game mechanics, and even like you can even see like typical things you see in games like resources for your players. It's obviously finding metal and shit like that.
And like a leveling system where the power gets stronger and you unlock new powers, and I mean, stop saying these ideas out loud, guys.
Well, you're gonna have to pay Brandon Sanderson royalties. So.
Oh well, no, there's going to be no mention of any Brandon Sanderson.
It's just it's going to be an Aragon job. It's just going to be a reskin. I was just going to mention, just while we're talking about the magic system, the idea of like the steel pushing and how when the coins go against the ground, because they're pressing against a weightier object, they will actually propel the person in the reverse direction, like the physics and stuff about that. Brandon Sanderson has talked about like how he just may as well bring up Star Wars again. How he, with the Force, where anything can go anywhere, how that kind of bothered him because there was no physical logic to it. So I think this was kind of a reaction to the Force. Which is the Force is just complete, pure telekinesis, whereas this is telekinesis under strict rules. And I think that's a kind of it's a cool thing that it's like a reactionary thing that this has been created on.
Do you know what it's like? It's like if you've watched The Witcher or read The Witcher, probably watched or play the games. It has like its magical system is like something has to be destroyed to create magic. Like, so you'll see like in the first season of The Witcher on Netflix, it's like if they want to like say create fire or something, then they have to like kill a flower, and like, you know, there's like the whole training is about like kind of that balance. So like it's I think the actual physical system is for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, which is, you know, just pure physics. But I like when that you have like, it's like almost like you can see that this could be a real system. Like this would probably work in the real world if, like, you know, these things that exist. Where it's like Star Wars and all. It's just like where's that power? Where's the power of the Force coming from? Like, where's it generated? And is it just infinite? It's like, why can't they just infinitely like move some midichlorians? But sure, who knows what they are like? But yeah, it's
they're a microscopic organism, Jonathan. They live inside you in your blood.
And as Anakin's got over like 40,000 or something.
His power level is off the charts. It's over 9,000.
It's 9,000, over 9,000.
Another thing, just you mentioned about like you have to sacrifice something like in The Witcher. It's kind of like Game of Thrones. The fire magic or the blood magic, I suppose, is a better thing for it, where you have to, like, for example, only death can pay for life. You know that?
Yeah.
That's not just like a modern thing either. I think that is like how like ancient stories of magic too worked a lot of the time. And if you enjoy like physical magic systems with rules, embedded in some kind of physical logic, I think you probably enjoy The Name of the Wind as well. The sympathy magic system in that is really really unique and interesting as well. But that's all really I have in terms of trivia. I think I've sparsed out.
Who's the author of that one?
That is Patrick Rothfuss, though there's red flags going off right now at recommending you that book, because just like George R. R. Martin, he has seemingly abandoned the series, so maybe it's not great to recommend picking it up, but the first book is absolutely phenomenal in my opinion.
Could it stand on its own? Like, could I just pick the first one up and be like,
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But it is also considered, a modern classic. Yeah, so we're going to go on to what else we're consuming. I think I'll just keep with the trend where I've been starting with Jonathan this episode and go to Jonathan first here.
Yeah, so I did mention there just that I'm kind of working a lot on like game programming, so I've been learning Unity. And like there's kind of a whole thing about, there's like Unity and Unreal are the two main gaming engines that a lot of people learn. And I figured out that Unity is the one you learn if you want to be writing more code, which is what I want to do, because a lot of the stuff isn't built for you. You have to build it yourself in code, which is good for people, like me, that want to just learn this thing, like the actual underlying stuff. Whereas Unreal is more like, it's got like a visual coding system where you can just like drag like a box that says function, do this, and like, join them all together. So it's like a visual programming thing. But yeah, I've been spending a lot of time doing, like, they have like a lot of like learning resources. So I've been doing a lot of that in my spare time. But in terms of watching things, I just last night started The Last of Us. I didn't watch the full first episode. It was an hour and 20 minutes, but I think there's half an hour left and I'm going to continue it. But I did play like the first few, like about an hour or two of the game, so I kind of knew what was going to happen already. But I'm kind of really looking forward now to get to the parts that I don't. But no, it's started so strong. Like, I'm looking forward to continuing watching that. But yeah, that's most of my time is consumed with those things. Still playing a lot of. I actually started playing, because I'm doing the game program. I started playing a game, Stardew Valley.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it's like a wee farming kind of simulator, but it's like a wee 2D pixelated one. It's quite an interesting game, but it's the reason I actually found out about it was because it was created by one person over 2 years. And I'm looking to be a indie kind of game developer, so I was just reading about his story and stuff and how he made it. But yeah, I was like, God, this game's actually pretty cool. When I was watching it, I was like, I must play it then. But now I've been playing a lot of that too. So
it's an amazing game.
That's me.
Stardew. I bounced that years ago for like days and days. So good. It's like Harvest Moon. If you ever played that way back when, it's like a new one.
I haven't played that, but yeah, I think that's what he based it on.
Yeah, Stephen, what are you consuming?
Yeah, I haven't a lot of time anymore for things, unfortunately. Still making my way through The Sopranos again. I'm loving it. Every time I watch that show, I love it. Like anything to do with the mafia, I think it's just so like interesting to me. I must think of one of a book suggestions for it. That might be fun. I haven't started The Last of Us, but I intend to at some point. Let me think what else. Me and the missus just watched the show on Disney Plus. We sat through the whole thing in one night. What was it called? Extraordinary. Have you seen this advertised?
No.
At all? No.
No.
It's essentially like so, like everybody in the world has recently developed, like the last 10 years or so, has developed like a superpower basically, and they're all different, right? They can be as mundane or as interesting as you like, but the main character doesn't have one. and she's like a weirdo, and it's very good. I thought it was really, really funny and really, really like different. What else?
It's kind of like in
there was
Kento.
another series. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. That's a very good comparison. Yeah, it's like Encanto, except instead of just the family, it's like everybody in the world apart from this one person, and and then there was another show that we watched, but I can't talk about it yet because it's actually a spoiler for my recommendation.
Oh, nice.
Because there's a book. There's a book on it. I loved the show so much. I thought, I think I was going to pick a different book, and then we watched the show, watched the full 2 seasons in a couple of days, and absolutely loved it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to recommend this book and see. First of all, is it much different from the show, and do the guys like it?
Nice.
And if they don't like the book, then they'll love the show. Because the show is class. So, let me think. What else? Still playing the new World of Warcraft expansion. That's partly why I don't have any time for anything anymore. back on the.
I thought
back on crack.
I thought you were going to say it's your young child.
Well, that's the 2 things that are the 2 of 3 things. The other thing being work that keeps me from doing other things. But any spare time that I'm not working or spending with Wayne, I'm playing this, and it's like crack. Again, I've fallen off the wagon.
So what I have been doing is I've been watching all the Best Picture nominees from the Oscars. I've watched loads of movies, but I've also watched a lot on this list. If you will indulge me, I'll just quickly read out what they are. All Quiet on the Western Front, Top Gun Maverick, Woman Talking, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Banshees of Inisherin, Triangle of Sadness, The Fabelmans, Avatar: The Way of Water, Elvis, and Tar. The only ones I haven't seen are Woman Talking and Avatar: The Way of Water. So I've seen the other 8, I think it is.
Did we talk about Banshees?
I don't think, no, we haven't, so we can talk about that now if you want.
It was amazing.
I loved it. I think it's my 3rd. If I was to make a list, it's my 3rd top film of the year.
It's definitely. I haven't seen a lot of films this year though, but it's definitely number 1 for me.
Yeah, it's on my top. It's on my top 3 anyway. I'd say number 4 would probably be that Triangle of Sadness, which was such a surprise, and it's a bit of a bad title for what the movie's about because it sounds like this drama kind of, but it's actually really funny, and it is sort of a drama, but it's hard movie to describe. But I really enjoyed that one as well. I would say one movie that's not on this list, but it was nominated for Paul Mescal giving a great performance in it, was After. It wasn't. That was also nominated for, I think, animated, but it was After Sun, which would probably be my 2nd top film of the year. That was just a great movie. It's kind of a sad movie, and some people have watched it and said, oh, it's not really about anything, but I think 5 minutes in, I was like, no, I know exactly what this movie is about, because I don't know why, it just really connected. And I think my top movie, I've already talked about it on the podcast, but it would still be Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I hope that one's Best Picture, because just like Parasite from a few years back, it feels like a really special movie that people are going to be talking about for decades and decades. It's just such a unique experience, and there's just not many movies like that. Obviously Top Gun Maverick, it's great to see that here too. That was a fantastic movie as well. The Fabelmans, I thought was just okay. It's kind of a semi-autobiographical story about Steven Spielberg's life and his, like, how he kind of got into cinema and stuff. It was interesting watching, but the characters felt kind of like cutouts of the real people that they were probably based on. And Elvis was enjoyable at times, but it was extremely frantic. And I remember I heard a review, it said like it's basically, this movie is like a 2-hour long trailer, which is kind of what it feels like. It's just
oh, wow.
Yeah. So Yeah, but I still enjoyed parts of it. But yeah, so have you guys seen any movies on this list? You've seen Banshees, Stephen, and loved it, yeah?
Banshees, yeah. I think that's the only one on the list. But it again, you know me, Michael, I used to be like going to the cinema every week
Yeah,
to see the new stuff coming out, and I've just fallen off the wagon
Yeah.
for the child. Haven't seen much, but I do.
We should get back to that.
Yeah,
We should do one movie a month.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
They said we were going to go see Weird Al, and we never did, and it's still.
it's still
Where did
haunts.
Weird Al come on that list?
Yeah, we should make a movie club where we all make one a month or one at some kind of regular interval. Go to the cinema and see a movie.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Yeah.
How high up?
it's a
Not
date.
to detract from that too much, but how high up did Weird Al rate on that list?
I have not seen the Weird Al movie.
Oh,
How high was it? Not
Well,
was it nominated for
but
anything?
was it? That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
It wasn't on the Best Picture nominees.
Probably not then,
I don't
if Michael hasn't seen it.
think. I don't think. I read the Best Actor stuff on the screenplay run. I don't remember seeing it for anything, to be honest.
It's a damn shame.
Yeah.
Oh well. But no, we should definitely do that. Going once a week or whatever. You say.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah. Did you, Jonathan? You watched Avatar, didn't you? Do you think it deserves to be on the list of Best Picture for the Oscars?
I went to cinema and seen it. To be honest, yeah, it was a very good movie. See, the thing I think was bad about it was that it was kind of like what A Force Awakens is to A New Hope.
Right.
Oh,
Basically, just a copy of the same kind of story. Like same bad guys, same like good guys. Like
to
there's
the
just
first Avatar.
yeah. Like it was like the storyline is the same, but then like Avatar is kind of like mostly about it's like visually stunning, kind of like the whole world of Pandora and stuff, which I thought was very good. Probably not in terms of I don't think it deserves to win Best Picture. Because it did feel very copied from the first one, but the first one was very good. So if it's, but yeah, it didn't do anything new for me. But no, it was good. Like it's probably worth a watch. But yeah, no, I wouldn't rank it. That's up there. I have seen All Quiet on the Western Front too. Stephen, you're going to ask a question about the Avatar.
Did I hear that Avatar lost at the box office to Puss in Boots? Can someone fact check that for me?
I don't
I don't
know. I thought it was quite. I heard Avatar was quite successful, and it didn't have a great opening weekend or anything, and then it slowly got traction.
Right, maybe that's what it was. I swear that I heard.
Maybe it was the open weekend.
I seen somebody say that that opening weekend or whatever it lost to Puss in Boots, and I thought that was so funny because he worked on that film for so long.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it has any chance of winning. To be honest, I haven't looked at any odds or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised that this is probably one of the lowest odds of the list, the movies on the list. I would say the Banshees of Inisherin has a really good chance of winning, even though I would like to see Everything Everywhere All at Once. If that doesn't win, I would love to see the Banshees of Inisherin winning, because I thought that was a great movie as well. It was so well acted, and Colin Farrell probably deserves Best Actor, but I haven't seen all the nominees. I haven't seen The Whale with Brendan Fraser. I can't wait to see that as well. But out of the movies I've seen, yeah, I think I would give Best Actor probably to Colin Farrell.
I just don't like
But yeah, any plugs, guys? Anything?
I've kind of already mentioned the game and stuff, but it is a long process, so I'll possibly. But I started like a YouTube channel for my program and stuff. So I did. I think it was the very first episode of this that I did. I do these like Q videos. This the KDB Q is the language that I program in my day to day. So I make videos for their like main site, the KX community. But I've also like uploaded them to my YouTube channel, and I plan to like do some of my other stuff. Like I'm going to do a few videos in C and stuff. But I haven't released anything yet, and I'm still working on it. So, but I should hopefully give some updates, hopefully in the next few weeks. But yeah, that's kind of everything I have.
Yeah, cool. Stephen?
Nah, nothing for me. My life's boring now.
Just World of Warcraft.
Just World
and
of
kid
Warcraft.
racing.
Looking after kids, World of Warcraft and work. Bought a dishwasher the other day. That's pretty exciting.
Nice.
Wow.
It's good. It's
Proper
good.
adulting there.
Good job, so it is.
What's the spun cycle rate
Oh,
on that
she's
bad boy?
top notch. I have no idea.
Does she have good flow, like good water flow?
Oh, some flow.
Yeah. I'm still writing, still recording. Got nothing too close to completion right now. I started, like, the fourth story I read was intended to be like another episode of the Dark Tales, and it's slowly looking like it might be a novella or even a novel. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's kind of like, it's a story called The Apartment. It's kind of a personal story / haunting story, and it's just sprawled bigger and bigger the more I've written of it. So I don't know if it's going to turn out how long it's going to turn out to be, but I'm really enjoying writing that at the moment. But that's everything that I'm working on. I guess that's everything, isn't it? It's so now that I've hosted my episode, I will pass over the reins to Stephen to introduce the next book we will be reviewing.
Sure. Okay, so as I said, I had a completely different book. I don't think it's too far away plot-wise, like just the base idea from what I was originally going to pick, but yeah, so we watched the show that absolutely captivated me, and I just wanted more of that world. So without further ado, the book is Slow Horses by Mick Herron. Have either of you ever heard of this book? Or seen the show?
No.
I think I've heard of it, but I can't. Somebody talked about the show to me. I don't know if it was you, Stephen, or somebody.
I'm not sure.
Somebody has anyway.
I think maybe did I mention that I wanted to watch it on this podcast?
I don't know. I've definitely heard of the show anyway. I didn't realize it was a book as well.
Because it was in the works for us watching it for like weeks, and I'm sure you know yourself, Michael, it's sometimes hard to fit in watching a show with your significant other when you've got a child.
Yeah, all those movies I said that I watched, those were in 20-minute segments.
Yeah. So yeah. Do you just want to hazard a guess as to what it's about?
I guess I'll go first then, since Michael has heard maybe small amounts, but not enough, just to make sure it doesn't influence
genuinely
my guesses.
No idea, Jonathan. No idea. Are we allowed to say cover, or would that spoil?
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Go on, show us the cover, because my guess is just about to be ridiculous.
Let me see. Does it involve horses?
Yes, that's what my guess is.
It doesn't. I'll tell you this: the book doesn't. There's no horses in the book. No actual animal horse.
Okay.
That I remember.
But is there slow? Is there something slow?
I've said too much. So that's the cover. It's in the Discord.
Let me just check.
Okay,
so I guess I'll
describe it for the listeners.
Yeah. So. Okay, sorry. You go ahead.
Go on, Steve. No, you go. Actually, it's your book. You describe it.
Okay, so the cover is it's a pair of hands, and they seem to be bound, and it seems to be like in a very dark room, and the hands are like holding up to the tiniest bit of light that's available. Do you think, is that accurate to what you guys are seeing?
Yeah. So I think I'll go with it is some form of kidnapping and ransom. So basically somebody is kidnapped and tied up for ransom, and then the story is about his or her, just from the hands it looks like a man's hands, but that could just be covered, but their struggle of getting free, and then people on the outside of this, the police eventually find out they can't just burst in because the terrorists or whoever's kidnapped this person will kill them. So I'm going to go down that line.
Okay.
What does the title mean, Jonathan? I want you to justify
I was going to ask
the title.
that. Yeah. What do you think the title means?
Slow horses sounds. A slow horse is like a metaphor. So a slow horse in like a race would be the one that's coming last. Maybe it's like that the police are slow to react to this, or like the people that are trying to save this person are quite slow to respond, and like this person, it's about this person having to wait and be patient rather than like they survive. I don't know. That's enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that slow horses as in reference to gambling, as in when you gamble on the wrong horse. Basic, it's like a play on that, and I'm gonna say
that's good.
I'm gonna say that this person they built up heavy debt and arrears, and they're taken captive by some gang and tortured, and it's about them trying to keep their sanity. That's what I'll go with.
Can I concede the point already, because that there Michael's just like taking mine's is a very vague idea, and Michael's just like put it on there.
But I mean,
that could be completely wrong, Jonathan.
No. I'm sticking to what I went up by pure instinct. No, I actually think that's quite a good guess. Like the slow horses. Like if you had asked me the question of what that means beforehand, I might have went down this path of the gambling or like betting because of the slow horses.
It could have nothing to do with that.
Already too deep. Too deep.
Okay. So again, the book is Slow Horses. The author is Mick Herron, and it's narrated by Sean Barrett. It's about 10 hours long, as I remember.
Nice.
So that will fit on our next.
Back on track with the shorter books.
Back on track.
Nice.
Okay, I guess that's us, isn't it?
That's a wrap.
Yeah, we'll see you next episode, where we'll be listening to, we'll be reviewing what we listened to, Slow Horses.
Thanks, and Brandon Sanderson fanboys, don't at me.
We'll put Stephen's personal email under the show notes.
Before I passed it to you, Stephen, I was tempted to say that we're actually going to do all 7 Mistborn books.
If it's your choice to recommend them or not, I will do my best to listen to them.